What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Codex Station's Comic Character of the Week, where we take one character, do the deep dive on that character, give you some badass moments, some must-read stories, and of course, some top covers. Tonight we're too short, but that's okay. The show must go on. So, as always, I am joined with my buddy here, Dan the Man Kelly from Dan Kelly Art. How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right. We might be too short, but we are also too legit. We're too legit to quit.
Quit. Too legit to quit. All right. I am your host as always, Sal the Slab Guy. So let's go ahead and kick this sucker off. Dan, who do we got?
Tonight it is Jenny Sparks from Stormwatch and the Authority, picked as the character of the week by the winner of the 1,000 subscriber giveaway of the Comic Character of the Week giveaway.
Nice. Yep.
So they got to pick a character and they picked Jenny Sparks. So here we are.
Here we are with Jenny Sparks. Okay, so let me go ahead and get my thing. The first thing, I guess, this segment is what works best with this character.
Well, the first would be her first
the intro.
Appearance, her origin, her power.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were doing. Give us the intro, Dan.
Yeah, jeez. So her first appearance was in Stormwatch issue 37 from July 1996, created by writer Warren Ellis and artist Tom Rainey. Jenny Sparks was the spirit of the 20th century. What that meant is she was born on January 1st, 1900. Her family was very wealthy, but they died when they were traveling on the Titanic, and their fortune was stolen by her father's rival. And she had not been with him because she was
sorry.
Go to Taco Bell earlier. She was not with them because she was going to private school, and then they were left penniless. So she was left penniless, so she was not able to continue her studies. So her godfather, Albert Einstein, took her in so that she could complete her education. Her powers began manifesting around 1913 and fully manifested by 1920, which is also when she stopped aging. She had a lot of adventures throughout the 20th century. She interacted with a lot of different historical figures. They say as her mood went was kind of tied to how the world was. So, during the roaring 20s, she was out partying, having a good time all the time. During the Great Depression, she sunk herself into a terrible depression, and, her moods fluctuated depending on what the state of the world was. She joined Stormwatch in the late 1990s, and from there helped form, after Stormwatch folded, she helped form the Authority. Her powers are that she can manipulate electricity, she can control it, she can convert her body into it, she can pretty much anything to do with electricity she can do. Fire electricity, she could travel through power lines, as long as there is something with electricity around her, she will have power. You're on mute.
Sorry, my dogs were barking. That's why I was moving the chair so that my dog could get to the wall, and then they started barking. So I went to mute really quick. Mm-hmm. Awesome intro, Dan. Thank you very much for that. All right, so for our next segment tonight is going to be what works best for this character. I think I'll go first on this one. What I like best, what I read, is that she has that I don't give a shit attitude sometimes. She's just like, she wants to say F you. She could say F you and start just, blasting people, that type of thing. She's got that, you were telling me you were thinking like a punk rock type of theme. That's why I tried to do the intro with a punk rock type of theme.
That kind of attitude, like, the leave me alone. I just want to sit here and drink and smoke, and, I don't want to be bothered with this shit.
Yeah, that type of thing. I think that really works best with her. That's what I got for that. How about you?
Yeah, I like when she's being surly. Like you said, that don't give a shit kind of attitude. Mm-hmm. But in the end, she'll do the right thing, right. Even though it's, somewhat reluctantly. Also, the fact that, since she stopped aging when she was 20, she looks very young, and then people will treat her that way. but we'll treat her that way. But then she'll have to remind them, like, I've been around since before your parents were born.
Right.
I also like that she is an effective team leader, even though she really has no interest in doing it, and is almost kind of forced into the role. But even though she is, and she doesn't have it, a great desire to be a superhero or to be a team leader, she does it because she gets to the point where she feels that she needs to.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to agree with that. Bougie said was kind of punk rock. Thank you for that, buddy. I do appreciate that. All right. So this might be a very quick episode tonight, ladies and gentlemen, with just the two of us. But Jamie did send his information in, so we'll at least have 3 sets of covers and stories and stuff like that for you. So let's go ahead and move on to our.
There's not a lot of stories, so I'm imagining, not looking at yours or Jamie's picks, that we're probably going to have a lot of overlap.
We probably will. I'm guessing we will. All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to jump to our badass moments, and Dan, you can go first on this one if you want.
Yeah, she did kind of have that Johnny Rotten kind of streak to her.
Oh yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
So the first one I'll say is from Authority. I wrote down Authority issue 11, but I think that's wrong. I think it was Authority issue 8. It was when there was an invading force from an alternate Earth that was attacking our Earth, and they were fighting back, and they took their ship, the carrier. They got it to go to this alternate dimension. And when they get there, Jenny says, all right, enough's enough. And she unleashes her electrical power in such a massive show of force that she destroys the White House of this parallel Earth. Kind of like in Independence Day when the aliens shoot down on the White House and blow it up from the middle. That's essentially what she did.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Another one I have, it's kind of from 2 different issues. It's from Stormwatch 50, Volume 1, which was the last issue of Volume 1. The last storyline, they had found out that, so anyone that doesn't know, that didn't read Stormwatch in the 90s, Stormwatch was a United Nations sanctioned team, and they operated out of a big satellite space station called Skywatch. And all the team members were, representatives from all these different nations all over the globe. And they were essentially the United Nations superhero team, but it was militaristic too. So they would be there no matter what was happening. They could not go down and act unless, a nation called them and said, hey, come and take care of this. So Jenny Sparks had been brought in, like I said, in issue 37, her first appearance, had been brought in to be the leader of Stormwatch Black, which was pretty much like the Black Ops team, the covert team. And the person that was in charge of Stormwatch was a guy named Henry Bendix, and his code name or call sign, whatever you want to call it, was the Weatherman. So he was in charge of running all the Stormwatch operations. Well, in the final story arc, they, had come to find out that Henry Bendix, was kind of a bad guy and had been doing stuff that he shouldn't have been. And because he was interested in control and, and wanted to save the world, but wanted to save it his way, where it would be under his control. And there was a character in it named the High, who was part of this team that was doing their best to save the world, but it was on their terms. And Bendix didn't like it, so he found a way to get in and have Stormwatch take him out, and under false pretenses. And this character, the High, that Jenny had known for decades, was distraught over his entire team being killed. So he's a Superman-like character. So he takes off like a rocket to their base in space. and he yeah, and they had to put up their force field because the techs are saying if he hits this space station at that speed, he's going to obliterate it. Everyone on here is going to die. So they had to put up the force field, and he hits it essentially like a bug on a windshield, and that was that. And she went after Weatherman when he was trying to teleport away through their teleportation system, and he that's what she's calling, like, you bastard, you did this, and he kind of reveals everything to her. And as he's getting ready to teleport away, she zaps him, and what she thought killed him, but it turned out he didn't die, though we all thought that he died. There was then a second volume of Stormwatch that ran 11 issues, and we see that he had survived, but he was very, like, grizzled and bedridden and real messed up from it, and was still trying to pull some strings. And then, in issue 11, she finally finds out that he's still alive. She finds where he is, and she shows up, and she just zaps the hell out of him until he's dead. So that's why it's kind of a two-parter, because at 50 she thought she killed him, and in 11 of volume 2 she goes in and she finishes the job. And then my final badass moment is the last issue that she appeared in Authority issue 12, which was really the last comic she appeared in because she died. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert for 25 years later, or 20 years later. So it turned out in the final storyline between issues 9 and 12 of the Authority that they discovered that the Earth was essentially created by this otherworldly being that they essentially just call God. And, they're saying, like, well, he's not really God. And they said, well, he, this being is the one that has made the planet, put everything together in space to make the planet. But originally the planet was closer to the sun and had a much different atmosphere. And at one point, something had hit it that pushed it a little further back from the sun that gave it more temperate climate so that life was able to exist. So, millions and millions of years later in the storyline, this being is coming back to Earth, essentially to, come back to its home. And, it sends these heralds, and the Authority team has to take them out. And the final issue, they are going into it, and the thing is the size of the moon. And they fly their carrier ship into it, and they find its brain, and she uses all the last of her power to TJ, she did die in Hulk 180, but she also first appeared in that as well. Whatever you're saying, Sal, you're still on mute.
Sorry, just trying to avoid feedback there. Yep, I'm saying, yep, she appeared, then she died. Key issue, Hulk 180.
But she zapped the brain of this thing and killed it, and she died in the process. But being the spirit of the 20th century, she already knew that she was going to die at midnight. So her last act was to use up all the last of her power to zap this creature, this god, and kill it and save all of life on Earth.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, so for my badass moments, I actually have 4. I'll kind of continue that one, Dan, from Authority number 12. It was all that, but I also added her dying words, and they were like, "Save the world, they deserve it. Be better, or I'll come back and kick your heads in."
Yeah,
that's like the typical. That's how I see her, as the typical, "fu" to people or the government or authority or something like that. It was just, just her personality.
And some of the characters throughout, if you read that first 12 issues of the Authority, some of the characters would go, be like, "Oh, you can't do this, you're gonna die." And it's like, no, if I die, Jenny will just bring me back and kick my ass.
So true. That's funny. In Stormwatch 38, right after she's recruited, she gets to be trained by one of the other, I guess, mentors of the team,
Yeah,
and
by Battalion, the team trainer,
yeah, battalion the team. That's right.
who was
And
the former team leader, so field leader, so he was kind of a badass.
right, right, and she shows up, of course, with a bad attitude, hungover, smoking a cigarette, not really wanting to be there, and he starts throwing stuff at her to attack her, and she basically just obliterates the room with him and just mops him up on the floor type of situation. And she goes, "That's just me touching your brain," and that's like only using a fraction of her powers. And that was just a pretty badass moment there for me. Um, Another one I got is from Jenny Sparks #3, where she takes out an entire room of soldiers. Oh, that was just epic. That was just epic. And then my
Oh
last,
she fried them like they were all in the electric chair.
so my last one is from Authority #6. This is part of what Dan was talking about earlier, where he was like later in the story where they go to that ultimate dimension. This is earlier in the story where they come here to this reality, and she actually appears like as an electric apparition in the sky to start frying the invaders as they're coming down or coming into the reality, which is just was pretty badass and pretty well drawn too. So
yeah,
so
that
that's
was
what I had for it. Oh man,
You
okay,
all right?
yeah, just burping. I had pizza tonight, and it's just not agreeing with me.
Oh,
Man,
that's not very Italian of you.
Boardwalk pizza. It was all grease. It was not actually good. That's why I got
Really?
water.
Did you go to the guy and be like, "Hey, this is not to the right to the pizza"?
No, I didn't. No,
You're gonna be haunted by the gabagool.
Nope, didn't do any of that tonight. Was a perfect gentleman tonight out in the public eye. All right, so our next segment is our critiques and criticisms for this. I'll go first on this one. I mean, I don't really have a problem with her as a character. I like the rebel attitude and the asshole attitude type of within her. I think that worked really well. I don't like that she was like killed off for so quickly. I mean, I think there was like so much more they could have done with her, and I don't know. Maybe it's because she was not on one of the main top two comics areas that she just didn't find that rhythm. But I think she could have if she was more in the mainstream comics than where she was. I mean, it just feels like it was a waste. She's in there. She is. You're like, oh, this is awesome, and then she's dead. And you're like, okay, thanks. That's how I feel about it. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. I just she wasn't around long enough to make an impact. Like I said, she was, her first appearance was in July of 1996. Oh, Hawaiian pizza is a goddamn abomination.
You're gonna laugh. I love Hawaiian pizza. I really do. I do.
Fruit does not belong on a pizza.
But I didn't have that tonight. It was onions and green onions, green peppers, onions and peppers, and sausage.
You like Hawaiian pizza.
That's why it's killing me.
You bring shame to your ancestors.
Oh, because I like it doesn't bring any shame. Shut up. Keep going.
Yeah, it's kind of like I say. She was introduced in 1996, and it was July, so it wasn't even like early 96. And then,
right.
4 years later, she was killed off. And I get it because, the whole concept of her being the spirit of the 20th century, and she dies, at the end of the 20th century, and then there's kind of reborn as, and then was reborn as Jenny Quantum
right.
as a little baby, but then it was a little baby, and it was technically a different character. So it's just that she wasn't around enough to, for there to be enough stories about her. And, she was in the last, she was in like the last year of Stormwatch Volume 1, but it's not like she was in every issue. She was in Stormwatch Volume 2 a little bit, which ran for 11 issues. And then she was a key member of the first 12 issues of The Authority. And that was kind of it. There was, a couple little, things here and there.
Nope. This is an abomination. It's kind of like the same piece of X-Men. Oh, TJ, I think we're gonna have to kill boot you from the chat now. Where's the boot key? Oh. Robert De Niro, he's not dead.
He's not. Yeah, that's you killed him, and then he rolled over in his grave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, for me, she wasn't around long enough, And after they killed her in Stormwatch number 12, they gave her a 5-issue miniseries, which really didn't even focus on her that much, as much as each issue kind of focused on the different members of the Authority, and that was it. But it's like, okay, I get it that Warren Ellis could not introduce her until he took over Stormwatch, which was in July '96. And so he introduced her then. And the whole concept of the spirit of the 20th century meant that she could not survive past the 20th century. But she was around, story-wise, she was around for 100 years. And they touched on, in these different series, they touched on, some of her past in various issues. But even after she died, they could have easily done more than this 5-issue miniseries. They could have done like at least a 12-issue maxi series, and really explored her entire history. But they didn't do that.
Right.
Then, Jim Lee sold Wildstorm to DC. Wildstorm just disappeared, and they've, they did that Wildstorm book a couple years ago that kind of like reimagined everything, and they had a new Jenny Sparks that was part of it, but it was like a completely different character, and then that never took off, and now they're giving her a new miniseries, but it's how Wildstorm and all the characters are integrated into DC, which I am not a fan of that at all. I think it should have been kept separate. So we'll see how that goes, like how the spirit of the 20th century is still alive. Like maybe now they'll just make her the spirit of the 21st century. I don't know. But yeah, a long way of saying I agree with you that the only real criticism is that she just wasn't around long enough, to have, to really have enough stories.
Right. Or gain any momentum, I think,
Yeah.
I also read that they actually killed her off because she's a century baby. They actually, back in the when that turn of the century was happening, there was the argument that 2000 was not the actual turn of the century, that 2001 is actually the beginning of the 21st century, but they killed her off on 2000 anyhow. But
well, they actually, if you read the they actually reference that in the comic where she's saying like, I know I'm going to die at midnight, and someone, there's only like one other character, the doctor, that knows that, and he what does that say? Yes, ham and bacon is good on a pizza, but not pineapple.
Yep.
No pineapple. Never.
Whatever. I've had grilled pineapple, and that's amazing. Anyhow, keep going.
Yeah, why don't you just put some some apple slices and some grapes on there too?
I don't want a salad. Shut up. Keep going.
But yeah, like the doctor says something to her, like, but that January 1st, 2000 isn't the start of the century. And it was pretty interesting how the writer Warren Ellis wrote it, where he has her say like, yeah, I know that, but previously, as I said, as her moods kind of went with the way the world went with like the Roaring '20s, the Great Depression, like political upheaval, that affected her. She even said in the issue, there's so many dumb people out there that don't know when the actual turn of the century is, and they all believe that's just how it is for her because she goes as the world goes.
Right. Okay. Very cool.
But yeah, otherwise we could have had at least 12 more issues of the Authority with her in it. But
yeah, that's true.
It was not to be.
Not to be. All right. So our next segment is actually our sponsor, but We have neither Tim nor Jamie here to show the book, but it's the um,
Scarlet.
Scarlet book, #1. It's the Nirvana Comics exclusive book. Let me throw Nirvana Comics up here so you guys can at least check them out. But I can actually find it. I'm not the one that usually does this. Where are we going here?
Really? It's hard to tell because this is so seamless.
I know. So head on over to Nirvana Comics. They're in Tennessee. They are Tim's favorite local comic book store. You can check them out online as well. But they are let us do a giveaway of Scarlet #1. It's a store exclusive variant for Nirvana Comics. So go ahead and enter the hashtag giveaway in the chat. I think most of the people here in the chat have already entered, but if you're new to the chat and haven't said anything, welcome aboard. Hit that like, share, and subscribe, and put hashtag giveaway in the comments, and we'll get you entered into that contest. So, I don't even think we have a picture of it, do we? They got to put a picture up for us.
Yeah.
Yep. We'd like to see her more around for more. Yep. And did have a meaningful death. Yep, she did.
I mean, that's why I said that's why I had as a badass moment. She, not many people can die saying they literally saved the entire planet and like every life on the planet,
right,
themselves. So,
right. All right, let's go ahead and jump to top covers. You want to show Jamie's first? I'll show Jamie's first. How's that?
Oh, all right.
Where's Jamie's? Top covers. That's yours. That's mine. There's Jamie's. Boom. All right. Looks like you went with 2 Authority books. Not bad. And 1 Stormwatch book, number 48, it looks like.
Yeah, that number 12, that's the one. That's the last issue. That's the one she put the big one.
Yes, it is. That's what we call a key issue, ladies and gentlemen. Right there. All right, Dan, let's go ahead and check out yours then.
All right, so all the way on the far left, I tried to pick a book from each one of her series that she was in because again, wasn't around a lot to be in a lot of stuff.
Right.
So the one all the way on the end is Stormwatch issue 44, which had multiple covers, which had 2 different covers, but this is the one I really liked. I just like that it has that old B movie, kind of feel to it, which I like, kind of like gave me a Mars Attack, kind of vibe to it, which I thought was pretty cool. And the way the cover is designed too, it's like an old EC comic. I just thought that was really cool. The middle one is the first issue of her 5-issue series, Jenny Sparks. I just like that, it's her on there, and she's got the Union Jack behind her, which she would frequently wear a shirt that had the Union Jack on it, and it's her with a drink and a cigarette, and it says, "Yeah, I'm dead, so what?" Which is
it's her personality.
Yeah, her personality that fits perfectly with it. That kind of just don't give a shit attitude. And then all the way on the end, which is one that I also have on my spinner rack behind me, the Authority issue 2, where it's her standing there. She's got like the heroic pose, and she's saving the kids, and the lightning's all around, coming down all around her, and it's just like a really badass, heroic looking cover.
Yeah, I saw that cover too. I almost picked that cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Deeble. Yeah, I'm dead. So what? that does fit her personality. All right.
So let's see what you got.
Whoops, that's Jamie. Sorry, wrong button. There we go. So I went with these 3. I like the one in the center the best. That's a Stormwatch 44. I mean, that's
the other cover for because like I said, how Stormwatch 44 had 2 covers.
Yep. And then on the far right, I had Jenny Sparks, number 1 of 5. This is the secret history of the Authority.
Another
that's the way her powers are going. And then I got over on the far left, Stormwatch was at 39, I believe, or 38. I can't remember. I have to look at my notes really quick.
Yeah, and that's with it's 39.
39, yep, 39, yep.
Yeah, and that's with her and Jack Hawksmoor and Swift, who excuse me, who
Yeah, you're burping that pizza too, aren't you?
you know, that was the Stormwatch Black, the covert team,
Right.
and you know was
So they were the down and dirty team.
was the basis for the Authority, because when the Authority formed, those were the three that were that were already kind of a little unit together.
Right. Right. Yeah, I like that they were the down and dirty type of team.
Yeah,
They're the team we called in to get shit done, you might say.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think I liked that center cover the best. Number 44.
Yeah, that's got like an old school kind of Marvel feel to it.
It does. It does. All right. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our readings then. I'll let you go first on this one. So let me find your reading. Oh, actually, no. Let me show Jamie's first.
Yeah, let's do
get
his
Jamie's
first.
out of the way. Dan, Jamie. All right, he went with the Authority Relentless, the Authority Earth Inferno, and Jenny Sparks' The Secret History of the Authority. Okay. Very cool. I like that background I found there with her wearing the Union Jack, holding the mug, and looks like a cigarette and lightning coming out of the other hand. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, it looks like an animated series character.
Yeah. All right, Dan, you're next. Here you go.
Yeah, so I'll start. I don't know why you put them in this order. So I'll start off with the middle one, Change or Die. That's from the Stormwatch issues 48 to 50.
Yeah.
The last storyline of the first Stormwatch arc, and I put that on there. One reason is because the guy that picked this, his name's Jackson King, said that he really liked the Change or Die storyline, and he's right. It's a good storyline, but it's also kind of the beginning for me of the Authority, because we had the Stormwatch Black unit with her and Hawksmoor and Swift before this, but some of the characters that were introduced in this were kind of prototypes of characters that would later join the Authority. And it kind of had that, that whole idea of we're a group of superhumans and we're going to fix the world, and you just go along with it. Now they did it in a different way than the Authority did, but it was still that same kind of idea. Then I've got the Authority issues 1 through 12. Just read all 12 issues. It's they're all fantastic. It's 3 separate storylines. The two of Jamie had 2 of them in there. It's each storyline is a 4-issue arc.
Right.
So just read all 12. She's is the leader of the team, and so she's very prominent throughout the whole, all 12 issues.
Yep.
Then I also had Jenny Sparks' The Secret History of the Authority, which was the 5-issue miniseries that came out after Authority 12 when she died. And like I said earlier, it doesn't focus on her as much as you would expect it would, considering that it's named after her. But each issue kind of focuses on a different member of the Authority and focuses on her and how, in their history, some of them tied to her in, more than others, and how she got them, into the Authority.
Awesome. Good stuff, because I think I got something similar.
Well, let's see.
Yep. So I also have the Stormwatch 44 through 50, which is kind of like her beginning of her origin and the start of the Authority. So that's definitely a good series to read. The Planetary Authority ruling of the world. Thought that was pretty good because of it brought in the Wildstorm universe and the Planetary with the Authority, and they were kind of like, I felt like they were like 2 sides of the coin type of thing, where the Authority was the the people that are down and dirty and wanted to get things done, and the Planetary is the mystery archaeologists, trying to discover things. And when they discover a world's dark secrets and hidden splendor and stuff like that, and they try, I just feel like they're polar opposites, but they did a good story with us as well. So it's definitely one to check out. And of course, I've got the the Secret History Authority 1 through 5. Dan's already covered that. So I don't think I need to dive into that one anymore. But yeah, there we go. All right. So I think we're going to be similar on this one. Best writer, best artist. What do you think?
I mean, there's only one writer that really wrote her, right? I mean, it's Warren Ellis. He created her, and he wrote all the issues she was in Stormwatch Volume 1. He wrote Stormwatch Volume 2. He wrote The Authority.
Yep.
He wrote the Planetary crossover. I think I take it back. I think I don't think he wrote the Jenny Sparks miniseries. I think that was
let me see. I can look that up really quick.
I think that was written by
I don't think
Mark Millar, if I'm not mistaken. Because Mark Millar is the one that took over that took over the Authority after I'm blanking on the name of Warren Ellis. After Warren, I just looked up. I was right. Yeah, it's Mark Millar that wrote it because he took over writing the Authority, the issue right after Warren Ellis left. Him and Frank Wheatley took it over.
As a side note, Tom King's gonna be writing her new series coming out.
Yeah,
I know. Just to say, just FYI.
See, I actually did not like the Planetary Authority crossover. I love Planetary, but I love the Authority, but there was just something about the crossover that just didn't do it for me. In fact, I wasn't really a fan of any of the Planetary crossovers. They did a couple of them. I think the Batman one was okay, but I wasn't a huge fan of any of them because it wasn't like the same Planetary team that you read in the book. It was like different versions of them and different versions of the characters they would meet up with.
Right.
Or whatever. That's neither here nor there.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good read. Maybe it was just written well, and it just kind of flowed for me. I enjoyed it.
No, it's fine. It's not terrible. I just, I read that after reading the entire volume of Planetary, and I was just like, oh, that was so good, and this is just kind of, eh.
So who'd you have for artist?
For artist, I had Bryan Hitch.
Yep.
Again, there weren't a whole lot of artists that drew her because she wasn't around that long. I had Bryan Hitch, who was the one that drew her on those 12 issues of The Authority. And a close second would be Phil Jimenez, who did draw the Planetary and Authority crossover.
How about Tom Rainey? What did you think of him?
Yeah, Tom Rainey was okay. I like Tom Rainey's art, but I just, for me, when I looked, when I was reading it, I just, I liked Bryan Hitch's artwork more.
Okay.
Now, what about you? Who did you have?
I that's who I went with, was Tom Rainey for my artwork as well. Because he did the Secret History of the Authority. I did like that also, but I do have Warren Ellis as the writer because, there is
outside of those 5 issues of the miniseries Mark Millar wrote, like Warren Ellis was the only one that wrote it. Really.
Yes, indeed. All right, let's see. Let's get here. Bucci says, "For some reason, never read Planetary Authority, but I need to." Yeah, definitely check it out. I mean, I know Dan didn't care for it. I mean, I thought it was okay. I don't feel like it's going to be one that I'm going to reread, but I might. But it's perked enough interest in me to say, okay, I'll probably check out the new Jenny Sparks series that's going to come out just to see how it goes.
The artwork in it is fantastic, though. Phil Jimenez's artwork is great. And it did. Reading Planetary, which is just. Planetary, if you haven't read it, that's something you got to go pick out. That's, mind-bendingly awesome of a book. But one of the main characters, Elijah Snow, is another one of these, as they call her, like a century baby. Yeah. And throughout Planetary, it doesn't interact with any other outside of these crossovers. In the book itself, even though it's part of the Wildstorm universe, it vaguely references, it mentions like Jenny Sparks once or twice throughout it, like in passing, but you don't see it interact with any other book through Wildstorm. It's a completely self-contained story. But it was interesting seeing, how they had mentioned her once or twice in Planetary, that when, then when you read that, you actually get to see them interact with each other.
Yeah. All right. So tell me, who do you think? Who do you want to write her if she were to come out with another mini or maxi? Doesn't matter. Who would you want her to be written by?
I mean, I don't know that I would necessarily want to read a book just of her. I mean, maybe I would want to read a book just of her if they showed all of the stuff that she did throughout the 20th century. But I have a feeling that they're, with this new miniseries, especially since it's set in DC, like I know that she's interacting with Superman like in the first or second issue.
Right.
That clearly she's not going to be the spirit of the 20th century anymore. So we'll see what they do to edit her background. I would like to see more of the Authority, like the original team, operating in the Wildstorm universe, like separate from DC. Even though he hasn't written anything in a while, and who knows if he's going to write again. Like I think Donny Cates, has written some pretty crazy stuff. He's written some pretty cool stuff. So I think he would be interesting to see what he would be able to do handling the Authority.
Do you think? I was going to lean towards Tinian, but I don't know if she needs any world building. But he might be interesting to read.
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to be if it was going to be a book, like I said, that shows her entire life from the early 1900s all the way up through her death, maybe someone like Jeff Johns or Mark Waid, just because they have, I know it's not like necessarily a knowledge of world history, right, but they've written so much stuff with different characters that have dealt with like so much world history that they would probably have a pretty good base of knowledge to do something with that. And Brad Meltzer would be another one.
Oh yeah,
he actually, had a show on the History Channel that talked about different mysteries, throughout history. So I think he might be a good one that could write a book like that would, take place over her 100 years of life.
We can always get Tim's favorite. Hard pass. Anyhow, okay. That's really all we have tonight for this character. Unless you got any final thoughts, anybody in the chat got any final questions or any thoughts on the matter? But if not, we can go ahead and wrap this one up, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a quick episode because it's just the two of us. It's just you and I, man, taking on the world.
Just the two of us.
Okay,
we can make it if we try. Just the two of us.
Dan,
just the two of us.
I'm gonna put you on mute here, Dan. Don't do it.
I don't know the rest of the words of the song. I only know that part.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us for Comic Character of the Week. I am your host, Sal the Slab Guy. As always, you can always find me on YouTube under Sal's Comic Corner or Instagram as the Slab Guy 77. You can always find Dan where? Where can they find you?
Yep, you can find me on Instagram as well at Dan Kelly Art.
Awesome. As always, find us on Facebook under Comic Character of the Day, and always find what we like most under thecodexstation.com, where you can meet the team, get some merch, and so much more. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.